Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and you're watching Newsnight on DD India, your prime-time destination for news and analysis. It's good to see you again. Now it's 9 p.m. in New Delhi, 4:30 in the afternoon in Berlin and 10:30 in the morning in Washington, D.C. On the show tonight, the new Omicron variant of the coronavirus is spreading. That's the not so good news. The good news, though, is this. The pace at which some countries, India included, are vaccinating their citizens, coupled with prior exposure to or infection by the Delta variant, might reduce the impact of Omicron. But that said, the scale and magnitude of Omicron cases and, most importantly, severity of the disease are not clear. But, and this is an important but, what is amply clear is that you should take the usual precautions as before. So, wherever in the world you are, keep the mask on, take both doses of the vaccine. If you're not vaccinated, now is a good time to go for it. Remember, there is no, I repeat, no evidence to suggest that vaccines do not work on Omicron. Vaccine is still your best bet against the virus. And also, practice social distancing. We'll get you more on this developing story in just a bit. Also on the show, Prime Minister Modi inaugurates Infinity Forum, a financial technology event, and we track Cyclone Jawad for you. An alert has been sounded for the states of Odisha and Andhra Pradesh. Plus, news and updates from India and the world. All that and much more coming up over the next 1 hour. But first, as always, the headlines. Omicron's global footprint continues to grow. Malaysia reports the first cases of Omicron variant, as does New York in the US. World Health Organization urges Indo-Pacific countries to prepare for Omicron-driven COVID-19 surge, asks vaccine manufacturers to tweak existing COVID-19 jabs to cater to the Omicron variant. South Africa entered the fourth wave of COVID-19 pandemic. Omicron variant found in 7 out of 9 provinces in the country. But authorities say hospitals are not under threat at this stage. Call for vaccination as being key to battling the wave. Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia says India has stepped up surveillance and put in place measures to combat the Omicron variant, including testing at airports. Health Secretary writes to states and union territories in this regard. Genome sequencing being carried out on positive samples. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates Infinity Forum, a thought leadership forum on fintech, showcases India's transformational initiatives under Digital India, calls for a fintech revolution to achieve financial empowerment of every Indian citizen. Digital transactions show a 5-fold increase in the last 4 years. For financial year 2022, more than 4,683 crore transactions recorded till November 2021. Citing intelligence reports, Ukraine's defense minister tells parliament that Russia has massed more than 94,000 troops near its borders and may be gearing for a large-scale military offensive at the end of January. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says a video call between President Vladimir Putin and US President Joe Biden is in the works, a day after foreign ministers of both nations met in Stockholm. On the eve of Navy Day, Indian Navy Chief Admiral R. Harikumar says the Navy has maintained its operational readiness and tempo alongside playing the role of a caregiver. This in spite of the COVID pandemic and security of India's northern borders adding to complexities. Cites 22 bilateral and multilateral exercises in 2021 as evidence of its readiness. An Indian Met Department issues an alert for Cyclone Jawad to the states of Odisha and Andhra Pradesh, among others. The cyclonic storm is likely to reach the west central Bay of Bengal off the coast of North Andhra Pradesh and Odisha by the morning of 4th December. Cabinet Secretary Rajiv Gauba convenes a second meeting of NCMC to review preparedness. Right, let me dive straight into our cover story. It's about the spread of the Omicron variant around the world, including India. I'll come to global situation in just a bit, but before that, let me bring you up to speed on the situation in India. Now, the Indian government said it is monitoring the incidence of the new Omicron variant. Surveillance and testing have been beefed up at airports and elsewhere in the country. Genome sequencing is being carried out at a rapid pace as well. The government says fully vaccinated individuals are protected from the severity of the disease. My colleague Nitinder Singh has more.
The Union Health Ministry on Friday said that government is monitoring the situation of Omicron variant of COVID-19 closely and issuing suitable guidelines from time to time. Replying to questions on the coronavirus pandemic in Lok Sabha, Union Health Minister said that the facility of conducting genome sequencing has been expanded across the country.
Secretary Health ने सभी राज्यों के साथ बैठक करते हुए ओमिक्रॉन वेरिएंट के खिलाफ रणनीति पर महत्वपूर्ण दिशा निर्देश दिए। 28 नवंबर को रिवाइज्ड एडवाइजरी ऑफ इंटरनेशनल ट्रैवल जारी की गई। शुरुआत के चरण में जीनोमिक सीक्वेंसेस का समय 30 डे जीनोमिक सीक्वेंसेस के समय लगता था। आज हम 30 घंटे में जीनोम सीक्वेंसिंग कर सकते हैं। इतनी ताकत हमारे वैज्ञानिकों के आधार पर भरोसा पर हमने प्राप्त कर ली है।
Meanwhile, the centre has asked states and union territories to be extra vigilant in enforcing public health measures to contain the spread of Omicron variant of COVID-19. Union Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan has written to Additional Chief Secretary and Principal Secretary of all states and union territories in this regard. In the letter, the Union Health Secretary said, the passengers coming into states and union territories must be followed up through the surveillance mechanism and tested as per the extant guidelines of international travel. All state surveillance officers have been provided access to Air Suvidha portal of the Ministry of Civil Aviation. Health Secretary asked the states to access the portal every day to know in advance the details of passengers coming in their respective states from different international airports. He said constant vigilance regarding transmission of any variant is essential and enhanced testing is the only strategy for detection of the virus. Contact tracing of all positive persons will remain the key to stopping the spread. The Health Secretary asked states that samples of all those who test positive must be sent for whole genome sequencing expeditiously. He said evidence indicates that fully vaccinated individuals are protected from severity of the disease. In some good news, health researchers in the country have found that hybrid immunity is helping India keep numbers in check.
3 types of immunity to the SARS coronavirus. The first one is natural immunity, in which you get infected, you recover, and now you have immunity. The second is vaccine-induced immunity, in which you get a vaccine, you develop antibodies and T-cell reactivity, and you get better, and your risk gets lower. Third is hybrid immunity, in which you first get infected, then you get vaccinated, and you have a very strong response. Now 2/3 of India probably was infected by the time the second wave ended. The huge vaccination drive, one of the largest in the world, came after that. So the majority of Indians have what we would call hybrid immunity, a very strong immunity which probably led to the almost complete decline in cases in most of India.
2 international air travellers, including a child from at-risk nations, have tested positive for COVID-19 on their arrival in Tamil Nadu early Friday. State Health Minister has said the variant of the coronavirus will only be identified after the test results are out. In Maharashtra, compulsory provision of RT-PCR testing for domestic travellers from other states has been done away with. Citizens must be fully vaccinated or carry a negative RT-PCR test report not older than 72 hours. Karnataka has introduced updated COVID-19 guidelines after 2 cases of the new Omicron variant of coronavirus was detected in the state.
It is not going to be an untreatable infection. We have experience of treating all this successfully in the last 2 years. We have enough experience, we have enough options, we have definite treatment today. The protocols of treatment is very well established. So please be brave enough, please be open and share the information.
According to the updated guidelines, all cultural activities and functions have been postponed till 15th January 2022 in all educational institutions. With Bureau input, Nitendra Singh's report, DD India.
Let me now turn my attention to the Omicron situation around the world. I begin in South Africa, where the government has said the country has entered the fourth wave of the pandemic, but hospitals were not under threat at this stage. Meanwhile, about 36 countries worldwide have reported Omicron infections. The World Health Organization's chief scientist, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan from India, says Omicron appears to be very transmissible, but the right response is to be prepared and cautious, not panic.
As the global footprint of Omicron variant continues to expand, New York becomes the latest American city to report cases of the Omicron variant, 5 of them in fact. Sharing the information, New York Governor Kathy Hochul pointed out that the vaccination status of most of the cases is uncertain.
Traveler from South Africa who arrived here and is a Suffolk County resident, a 67-year-old woman. Our second case is a Queens-based. The vaccination status is unknown to know whether or not this person had been vaccinated or not. Third case, similar situation. No other further personal details, but the vaccination status is unknown, Queens-based. And another case is from Brooklyn, unknown vaccination status.
Malaysia too has detected its first case of the Omicron coronavirus variant in a foreign student who was quarantined after arrival from South Africa 2 weeks ago.
This case involves a 19-year-old foreign traveller who arrived from South Africa via Singapore on 19th November. Altogether 5 people. They have undergone COVID-19 screening and mandatory quarantine. The results of both the first and second samples of all close contacts were confirmed to be negative.
Amidst all this, WHO has asked COVID-19 vaccine manufacturers to gear up to adjust their products to protect against the Omicron variant. WHO has urged Asia-Pacific countries to prepare for an Omicron-driven COVID-19 surge.
Border controls can delay the virus coming in and buy time, but every country and every community must prepare for new surges in cases. Continuously calibrating combination of tools and actions based on the risk in each local settings as they evolve over time. This is what we need to be doing in response to Omicron.
Meanwhile, South Africa has announced that it has entered the fourth wave of the pandemic, but hospitals were not under threat at this stage. South African Health Minister Joe Phaahla said that infections with the new variant were now present in 7 out of 9 of the country's provinces.
With hospital admissions mainly dominated by those who are not vaccinated and young people below the age of 40, most of whom are not vaccinated. This fourth wave, which we have started to enter into, can be managed without too many casualties, without too much loss of life, if we all observe the safety measures, the biggest risk being gatherings, especially indoor gatherings.
According to public health experts in South Africa, the virus was spreading faster than at any point in the pandemic in Gauteng, the province where Johannesburg and the capital Pretoria are located. They are also saying that preliminary data suggests Omicron is more transmissible and has some immune evasion. France has said that the current wave of the country's COVID-19 disease could peak in late January, with a renewed variant putting strain on the country's hospital system. On Thursday, France reported close to 50,000 new infections for the third day running due to the Delta variant. The only way to curb the wave is booster vaccinations, according to the French health minister.
La 5e vague liée au variant Delta, elle monte vite.
The fifth wave related to the Delta variant is spreading quickly. What figures also tells us is that there are 2 fundamental elements that could change the predictions. The first one is booster vaccination. The Institute Pasteur tells us if you vaccinate 400, 500 or 600 people with boosters every day, number will go down before the end of January.
Germany's health minister has said that more than 1% of the population is currently infected with the coronavirus, and he called on citizens to get vaccinated if they haven't done so yet. Health Minister Jens Spahn noted that the number of unvaccinated residents who are infected and seriously ill is much higher than their share of the overall population. The nation edged one step closer to a ruling that would make COVID-19 vaccination mandatory. A significant section of society in Germany are resistant to vaccination. Germany's vaccination rate has hovered around 60 to 70%, a lower average than its European neighbours. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Well, let me track the Omicron variant for you. Let's put the data on the world map for you to see. We'll go region-wise, starting with Africa. Now, let's start with South Africa. South Africa, infection has spread to 7 of the 9 provinces. 19 cases in Botswana, 34 in Ghana, and also other cases in Nigeria, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe as well. Now to the Americas, North and South America. Brazil, 3 cases. Canada, 10 cases. Also 10 in the US. So that's the Americas for you. Next up is the Indo-Pacific, starting with Australia. In Australia, we have almost a number of cases as well, followed by Singapore, Sri Lanka, India, 2 cases. Malaysia also 1 case. And South Korea also 6 cases, and Sri Lanka as well in the wider Indo-Pacific region, besides, of course, Japan and South Korea. Next up is Europe. Let's see how Europe has fared. We start with Austria. Austria, Denmark, Finland, France have all reported a number of cases, including 7 in Germany. Greece, Iceland, Ireland and Italy have also recorded 1 case each. The Netherlands has 14 cases. Norway has 5, Portugal 13, Spain 5, Sweden 6, Switzerland 2, and the UK 42. And last but not the least, West Asia. In West Asia, Israel has reported 3 cases, 1 case in the UAE, and 1 each again in Saudi Arabia. That's the world map for you in terms of the spread or the incidence of the Omicron variant for you. Right, time now for our In Focus segment, in which we are discussing about Omicron, alertness and preparedness, a solution. And joining me are 2 guests, Dr. S.K. Sareen, member, COVID-19 National Task Force, and Senior Professor, Institute of Liver and Biliary Sciences, New Delhi, and Dr. Naresh Gupta, Senior Medical Consultant, Maulana Azad Medical College, New Delhi. Right, Dr. Sareen and Dr. Gupta, welcome to Newsnight. If I can start with you, Dr. Sareen, you're a member of the task force. The task force seized of the matter, and do we have an update as far as those 2 cases in India are concerned?
Well, the task force has not dealt with this issue as of now, because I think the ministry and the people at the policy making are already totally involved into this. But yes, as a member, we are all concerned, and as a clinician and as a healthcare provider, it is a major worry for all of us. And that's how the cases started in the beginning, when we had last March the Wuhan virus, and very rapidly Delta picked up. So the fear and the way we are seeing globally the increase in the Omicron numbers, it is an apprehension that it may spread similarly.
Right.
Many people in India have not got tested, those who have returned from overseas or those who got in touch with the other people. So I think the next few weeks will tell us, maybe next 2 weeks or so, we will know if the number of cases increase in India. It's a huge challenge.
Absolutely, without doubt. Dr. Gupta, coming to you now, do we have a certain understanding, if I can use that word, about the clinical symptoms of the Omicron variant, how transmissible it is, or how more contagious it is than the Delta variant?
See, this particular aspect of the new virus or the new variant comes out pretty fast. And within the last couple of weeks that this virus has been around and they have dealt with it, one thing is clear, that it is more transmissible.
Okay.
Remember when Delta came in, that was more transmissible, and now Omicron is more transmissible than Delta. That actually is the biggest fear.
Right.
As for the symptoms, they appear to be similar to Delta, milder symptoms, but similar to Delta. There are no unusual symptoms reported, but bear in mind that even the earlier variants, the original variant and the subsequent variants, they all evolved into unusual symptoms only at a later date. The hospitalization and ICU care and mortality is a big concern, and time would tell, because all these serious complications don't tend to come up on day 1 or day 2 or day 1 week. So that will take some time, but the transmissibility certainly is a great concern, and more so in this setting when many of the countries where it has been picked up have got reasonably good vaccination, decent control, social appropriate behavior to the extent possible, like India has been doing so well. And these cases, if they are occurring, like in India, of the 2 cases, 1 has not even traveled. So these are matter of concern, because once it comes into a given area, region, then it could spread very fast, and the numbers by themselves, even if they are mild, could create a lot of damage.
Indeed. Dr. Sareen, there's a lot of talk about what is known as hybrid immunity. Now, what is hybrid immunity? Correct me if I'm wrong, but exposure to the previous Delta variant plus high vaccination rate will keep some countries in good stead. Am I correct? Including India for that matter?
I think this is a conjecture, not as far as science is concerned as much proven. I will add what Dr. Naresh said, 2-3 things. There is recent data that the replication rate is faster. In fact, it transmits nearly 1.5 times more than Delta. Secondly, the replication number is also higher. The CT values in Delta we used to see 24, 25. With Omicron 18 and 19, it means the higher viral loads are being produced in the infected people. So, and also the duration of transmission is not even 5 days, it can be 2 to 3 days. So with all these in mind, I think we need to be extra careful. Coming back to the hybrid immunity or the immunity Indians would have, first, if you got infected, certainly you have the best, and you have come out well, you have the best antibodies against all particles of the virus.
Right.
So it's a good thing. But let's say you are exposed to Wuhan virus, you are susceptible to Delta, and if you have Delta and Wuhan, either of them or both, then you are still susceptible to a new variant, because it's almost like a new variant, a new virus. For Omicron, it has been shown very recently that it separated out from the parent family maybe a year and a half ago. Early last year, this variant had separated out, and it is an entirely new trajectory, and that's how it has got so many new mutations, new proteins. So we do not know its behavior. For hybrid, second part is your vaccination. So you got infected, but you may not be protected. Now you got vaccine. The vaccine was developed for maybe Wuhan virus by and large, not for Delta as yet. So your immunity will be very good, hybrid immunity will be very good for Wuhan virus,
I see,
where you were infected or you got a vaccine for it. But you may not be as protected for Delta, and surely we do not know, may not be for Omicron. Now, I will add 2 parts in the immunity. One part is readily available, that is, you have antibodies. Antibodies is your first layer of resistance. So when you get vaccine or you get infected, you have antibodies which neutralize. But the second level of immunity in the body is your T cells, or the cells which are white, a type of white cells. These T cells will always come up and they will try and protect you. So please do not be scared. The T cells of the body for vaccinated as well as those who got infected will always come up. So you have two layers of immunity in your body. So hybrid is vaccine plus infection, but your body has two types of hybrid or immunity, that is your antibody and your T cells.
Indeed. Thank you for that comprehensive overview, Dr. Sareen. Dr. Gupta, coming to you now, how crucial is genome sequencing, and how will that determine the extent or the spread or the incidence of Omicron in India and other parts of the world?
See, Mr. Ramachandran, I think this is the most crucial aspect. We are a large country where the risk of spread is larger. We are a very vibrant country where the travel is a lot more, and we also have to take care of many diseases.
Right.
Gene sequencing has become the tool of the day. Remember, in South Africa, they picked up this Omicron virus because they had a very good gene sequencing infrastructure, and they were just doing it like that, and they picked it up. And they picked up the beta variant also 1 year earlier. So the gene sequencing, which we were expecting to do at least for the 5%, I hope we could do it, should become a commonplace because it would tell us, warn us right in the beginning that there is a variant coming in. If a variant has already seeped into the community, then the chances of regulating it or containing it become smaller, and then you have to fight with it. The other thing is, gene sequencing, we forget, is also a very good tool for tracking. If you want to find out where the virus is going to, where it is coming from or where it has gone, you could do the same sequencing in different areas, and that can tell you how it is traveling. So gene sequencing, we really have to boost our setup, and it is critical.
Right. On that note, may I thank both my guests. I'm afraid I'm run out of time, so let me thank Dr. Sareen and Dr. Gupta for sharing your insights with us and our viewers in India and abroad. Appreciate it. Right, moving on to the other stories we are tracking here on Newsnight. Prime Minister Modi on Friday inaugurated Infinity Forum, a thought leadership forum on financial technology, also known as FinTech. He said transformational initiatives under the government's Digital India program have opened doors for innovative FinTech solutions to be applied in governance. But that's not all. Digital public infrastructure solutions can improve the lives of citizens around the world too. Take a look.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the Infinity Forum, a thought leadership forum on fintech, through video conference on Friday. Speaking at the forum, Prime Minister Modi informed that last year in India, mobile payments exceeded ATM cash withdrawals for the first time. He said that fully digital banks without any physical branch offices are already a reality and may become commonplace in less than a decade. Noting that India has proved to the world that it is second to none when it comes to adopting technology or innovating around it, Prime Minister made a call for a revolution to achieve universal financial inclusion.
FinTech is resting on 4 pillars: income, investments, insurance, and institutional credit. When income grows, investment becomes possible. Insurance coverage enables greater risk-taking ability and investments. Institutional credit gives wings for expansion, and we have worked on each of these pillars. When all those factors come together, you suddenly find so many more people participating in the financial sector. The large base becomes the perfect springboard for FinTech innovations. FinTech industry in India is innovating to enhance access to finance and the formal credit system to every person in the country. Now, it is time to convert these FinTech initiatives into FinTech revolution, a revolution that helps to achieve financial empowerment of every single citizen of the country.
Explaining how technology has also catalyzed financial inclusion, the Prime Minister pointed out that from less than 50% of Indians having bank accounts in 2014, India has now almost universalized it with 430 million Jan Dhan accounts in the last 7 years. He also listed initiatives such as 690 million RuPay cards clocking 1.3 billion transactions last year, UPI processing around 4.2 billion transactions in just last month, almost 300 million invoices uploaded on the GST portal every month. Despite the pandemic, about 1.5 million railway tickets getting booked online every day. Last year, FASTag processed 1.3 billion seamless transactions. The Prime Minister Swanidhi enabled access to credit for small vendors across the country. e-Rupee enabled targeted delivery of specified services without leakages. The Prime Minister said that transformational initiatives under Digital India have opened doors for innovative fintech solutions to be applied in governance. He stressed the responsibility that comes with taking fintech to the masses.
Fintech industry has achieved huge scale, and scale means people from all walks of life as customers. This fintech acceptability among the masses has a unique feature. That feature is trust. The common Indian has shown immense trust in our fintech ecosystem by embracing digital payments and such technologies. This trust is a responsibility. Trust means that you need to ensure that the interests of people are secure. Fintech innovation will be incomplete without fintech security innovation.
Gujarat International Finance Tech City or GIFT City in Gujarat is hosting the Infinity Forum. Prime Minister Modi remarked that GIFT City is not merely a promise, it represents India. It represents India's democratic values, demand, demography and diversity. It represents India's openness to ideas, innovation and investment. In his words,
India's finance is the lifeblood of an economy and technology is its carrier. Both are equally important for achieving Antyodaya and Sarvodaya.
one of the guiding principles of the Modi government, Antyodaya, emphasized by Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay, means the rise of the last person, uplifting of the poorest. Prime Minister's call for Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas and Sabka Vishwas encapsulates Sarvodaya, which means development of all. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Right, let me welcome my guest to talk more on this subject. Joining me is Dr. Arvind Virmani, Chairperson EGROW and former Chief Economic Advisor, Government of India. Dr. Virmani, welcome to Newsnight. First up, PM Modi made a number of important salient points in his address there at this fintech event. But let me start by asking you, he spoke about financial or fintech revolution. Now, in your estimation, is India poised, is India on the cusp of actually, taking a quantum jump in this area?
Yes, I think so. But, it's important to understand very quickly the basis.
Sure.
So there have basically been three stages. One was the Aadhaar propagation, which took off after 2014. The next was the JAM, which created accounts and linked them to this Aadhaar and created the accounts for, as you mentioned, went from 50% to 95%. And the third part is the M in the JAM, which is the mobile revolution. So the mobile payments based on the UPI system, which has propagated. The third stage, fourth stage in a way, one can call it a stages, is the credit part, which is where the fintech comes in. So I think we are at that stage where this infrastructure which has been built up will now be used by the fintech companies to provide credit to the smallest person, because basically what it does is it reduces the processing costs, and therefore, earlier if you had, let's say, 100 loan, cost itself would be a huge part of that loan. So what the fintech is doing is to reduce the per unit cost, and therefore that is setting the stage for this revolution which you are talking about. Yes, we are on that threshold, obviously it will take time to roll out, and it may roll out in states where the fintech companies are more prominent in everybody.
Right. Dr. Virmani, the PM spoke about 4 pillars: income, investment, insurance, and institutional credit. Now, when you talk about digital public infrastructure, what can the industry or the government either alone or together do to marry these 4 pillars: income, investment, insurance, and institutional credit?
Right. So, I would put it slightly differently, because one of the other pillars of the thing which government is acting on is actually it comes before that, which is the connectivity. So this BharatNet program, which I think the Prime Minister announced some months ago, that he is instituting public-private partnership to take this digital infrastructure down to the district, block, and the village level. So, we'll really get the revolution when this infrastructure reaches down right into every village. Now, of course, we have the mobile infrastructure, but these two complement each other. So, and that's actually where the investment comes in. When this infrastructure goes in, it's going to be a public-private partnership now, because with government alone, it's much slower. And also the efficiency of maintenance. For example, connectivity requires 24 hours power. Now, where does government come in? You said institution. Government comes in that if public schools, which are state schools, public health centers, primary health centers, primary schools, and government offices all get digitized and connected to the internet, then that will facilitate the learning of the smallest people, the persons on the ground, and that will help spread this fintech revolution also. Because part of it is learning how to use the internet, how to use the connectivity for helping oneself. So that is where the government part comes in. The private investment comes in PPP, because that will help spread and maintain the infrastructure. Right. And so all these things kind of fit together. Insurance comes in because for many things, especially the health infrastructure, the quality of the health services, etc., the insurance matters. If I am a small person and I don't have insurance, I won't be able to use it. But if I have the insurance, then I will be able to use it, and you really get, again, I keep mentioning revolution, because revolution means it reaches everybody. So that's the part I'm emphasizing. So that's where all these 4 things fit in.
Absolutely. On that note, may I thank you, Dr. Virmani, for making time for us here at DD India. Appreciate it. Thank you. Right, moving on, in some more good news, digital payment transactions have witnessed a multi-fold increase in the last few years, growing to rupees 5,550 crore in FY 2020-21 from 1,004 crore in FY 2016-17. The number of digital transactions stood at 4,683 crores in the ongoing fiscal till mid-November. Now, the news: Ukraine's Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov has informed the country's parliament that Russia may be gearing up for a large-scale military offensive at the end of January, as the latter has massed more than 94,000 troops near Ukraine's border. Now, Ukraine's defense minister has said that Ukraine would not do anything to provoke the situation, but was ready to fight back if Russia launched an attack. Meanwhile, Kremlin, in a statement, said that work is underway to arrange a video conference between Russia's President Vladimir Putin and his US counterpart Joe Biden. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said Russia and the US positions diverged on many points after US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov met for talks in Stockholm. Pope Francis met on Friday with the leaders of Cyprus's Orthodox Church, that's the biggest Christian community on the island. The Pope is on his first full day of his visit to Cyprus. Pope Francis expressed a desire for eventual unity between the eastern and western branches of Christianity which have been split since 2054. The Pope also held an outdoor mass on Friday within sight of a huge Turkish Cypriot flag on a mountainside, in which he called for healing on the divided island. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson met with the Sultan of Brunei, Hassan Al Bolkiah, at Downing Street on Friday. The two leaders greeted each other with an elbow bump before the pair sat down for a meeting at the Prime Minister's residence. The Prime Minister looked forward to more cooperation between the UK and Brunei on important global challenges, building on Brunei's contribution to the success of the COP26 summit as well. Germany's military saluted a visibly moved Angela Merkel during a ceremonial farewell on Thursday, just a week before she is due to bow out of politics after 16 years in office. The ceremonial send-off came just days before Germany's legislature is due to officially elect Social Democrat Olaf Scholz as Merkel's replacement, putting the centre-left politician in charge of the country. Under Merkel's leadership, India-Germany ties saw a major upswing. More in the next report.
German military bands playing outgoing Chancellor Angela Merkel's favourite tunes in a befitting farewell to Angela Merkel, who served as the Chancellor for nearly 2 decades. At a ceremony held by torchlight, the Bundeswehr, Germany's federal armed forces, said goodbye to Chancellor Angela Merkel. The military tattoo has become the unofficial farewell ceremony for defense ministers, presidents and chancellors. Angela Merkel was the country's first East German chancellor and the first chancellor of post-war Germany to be seen off in Berlin. The 67-year-old outgoing chancellor's stint is marked by several economic and social developments in the country. During Merkel's tenure, unemployment significantly tumbled down in Germany. Bidding adieu, Angela Merkel wished the best for Germany under her successor.
Ich bin überzeugt. It is now up to the next government to find answers to the challenges that lie ahead of us and to shape our future. I am convinced that we can continue to shape the future well if we don't succumb to discontent, envy and pessimism. It's this joy in the heart which I wish on all of us, and in a figurative way for our country also in the future. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Under Angela Merkel's chancellorship, India-Germany ties also saw a major upswing. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Angela Merkel share a unique chemistry. She visited India for the 5th India-Germany Intergovernmental Consultations held in New Delhi in 2019. 11 pacts were inked between India and Germany in diverse fields such as space, civil aviation, maritime technology, medicine and education. In 2015, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had launched his flagship program, Make in India, on foreign soil at Hannover Messe in Germany. Germany, under the leadership of Merkel, joined the International Solar Alliance, an initiative of Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the India-Africa Summit. Merkel's successor, Social Democrat Olaf Scholz, is scheduled to assume office as the Chancellor of Germany next week. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Right, moving on, Navy Chief Admiral R. Hari Kumar has said that the Chinese Navy has expanded rapidly in the last 10 years, but India too is building its capabilities as per the long-term plans of the Navy. He said the Navy was fully ready to take on any challenge at the height of the standoff at the LAC in Ladakh last year. He was addressing the media ahead of Navy Day.
We are aware of the developments of the PLA, the Chinese Navy. They have built over 138 ships in the last 10 years, which roughly translates to about 13 to 14 combat platforms every year. We keep an eye on all developments in our area. Our plans, our capability development, our preparedness, our acquisition, all this will factor the ongoing activities and the deployments in the IOR.
He also said that the Indian Navy, with its warships, submarines and aircraft, is closely monitoring the Chinese presence in the Indian Ocean, and the Navy is fully prepared to defend the country's maritime interests.
The Navy has been present in the Indian Ocean since 2008. On an average, they have sometimes they have about 7 ships in the IOR, sometimes about 3 ships. Their submarines do come to our waters. Our waters, in the sense, in the Indian Ocean region, they do operate. We keep track of them. We keep track of their deployments. We keep track of what they do. We have our plans in place. We keep them. We have fairly good domain awareness in these waters. There is constant surveillance by our aircraft and our mission-based deployed ships. So their activities and deployments are kept under close watch.
And now to an update on Cyclone Jawad. The India Meteorological Department says a low-pressure system in the Bay of Bengal has intensified into a cyclonic storm. This cyclonic storm is likely to reach the west-central Bay of Bengal off the coast of North Andhra Pradesh and Odisha by the morning of 4th December. The National Disaster Response Force has earmarked a number of teams to tackle the situation. Here's a comprehensive report.
An alert has been issued in the states of Odisha and Andhra Pradesh following the formation of cyclone Jawad in the Bay of Bengal. According to the IMD, the cyclone is expected to reach the coast of North Andhra Pradesh and Odisha by Saturday morning. Thereafter, it is expected to recurve and move towards the West Bengal coast. The IMD stated that the cyclone would bring along heavy to very heavy rainfall. Wind speeds ranging up to 90 to 100 kilometers per hour accompanied by tidal waves are expected.
4 तारीख शाम से ये साइक्लोन धीरे धीरे नॉर्थ ईस्टवर्ड मूव करेगा एलोंग ओडिशा कोस्ट एंड एडजनिंग नॉर्थ आंध्र प्रदेश कोस्ट, और जब तट के पास होगा सबसे क्लोज होगा वो है 5 तारीख अराउंड नून पूरी एरिया में ये टच करेगा.
According to the Meteorological Department, Ganjam, Gajapati, Puri, Nayagar, Khurda, Jagatsinghpur, Kendrapada, Jajpur, Dhenkanal, Cuttack, Bhadrak, Baleshwar and Mayurbhanj districts of Odisha will be affected by Cyclone Jawad. Meanwhile, the cyclone's widespread effect could be seen in the coastal districts of Andhra Pradesh, Srikakulam, Visakhapatnam and Vijayanagaram. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a high-level meeting on Thursday and reviewed the preparedness of states as well as arrangements being made to deal with the devastation after the cyclone. The Cabinet Secretary also held a meeting and gave instructions to evacuate all the people from affected areas to safe places. In view of the situation, 46 NDRF teams have been deployed in Odisha, West Bengal and Andhra Pradesh for immediate rescue and relief operations. Rescue and relief teams of the Army and the Navy along with ships and aircrafts are also ready for deployment as required.
जब से IMD से हमको इसकी फोरकास्ट मिली है तब से हमारी तमाम बटालियां जो अलग-अलग स्टेट्स में डिप्लॉयड हैं और NDRF हेडक्वार्टर निरंतर स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स के संपर्क में है उनसे जानने के लिए कि हमारी उनको क्या-क्या मदद की जरूरत पड़ेगी. उसके आधार पे हमने अपनी टीमें भी डिप्लॉय की हैं और जहां-जहां जरूरत पड़ी अधिक टीमें भेजने की वो भी हमने वहां पहुंचा दी.
Fishermen and tourists have been advised to not to go towards the beach. Due to cyclonic storm Jawad, Indian Railways has cancelled 100 trains in potentially affected areas as a precaution. Bureau Report, DD India.
Union Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur and Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath on Friday inaugurated an Earth station at Indian public broadcaster Doordarshan station at Gorakhpur. It's the second such Earth station in Uttar Pradesh. They also inaugurated FM relay centers for the districts of Lakhimpur Kheri, Bahraich and Etawah. It will benefit listeners within a radius of 60 kilometers. My colleague Ramendra Singh reports.
Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath and Union Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Singh Thakur inaugurated the FM relay centers of Bahraich, Etawah and Lakhimpur Kheri from the premises of Doordarshan Kendra, Gorakhpur on Friday. On the occasion, Principal DG of All India Radio N. Venudhar Reddy and DG of Doordarshan Mayank Agarwal were also present. The Earth station in Gorakhpur has been built at a cost of 7 crore rupees rupees and is the second Earth station of UP. Now the listeners of these districts will be able to enjoy their favorite programs on the FM. UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath said the long-standing demand of the people has been fulfilled. Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Singh Thakur said that from the 11th of December, a special program will be aired on DD in the Bhojpuri language.
पूर्वी उत्तर प्रदेश के 37 वर्षों के इंतजार को दूर करते हुए आज इस अर्थ स्टेशन को राष्ट्र को समर्पित किया है। इससे न केवल पूर्वी उत्तर प्रदेश बल्कि बिहार का एक बड़ा भूभाग और नेपाल की भी एक बड़ी आबादी लाभान्वित होगी और सीमावर्ती क्षेत्रों में जहां कहीं थोड़ी हलचल होती है, दुष्प्रचार, भारत विरोधी गतिविधियों में जो लोग संलिप्त होते हैं, उन लोगों के द्वारा जो दुष्प्रचार किया जाता है, उस दुष्प्रचार को रोकने में यह दूरदर्शन केंद्र बड़ी भूमिका का निर्वहन करेगा इस अर्थ स्टेशन के माध्यम से।
जो प्राइवेट चैनल्स हैं उनके अंदर एक होड़ होती है, कौन ज्यादा दिखाए, कौन कितनी तेजी से क्या दिखाए। कई जगह थोड़ा ज्यादा मिर्च मसाला लगाकर भी चटपटा करके भी उसको परोसा जाता है, खबर ब्रेकिंग न्यूज जल्दी हो जाती है। लेकिन दूरदर्शन का प्लेटफॉर्म एक ऐसा है जहां पर आप ये कह सकते हो कि अगर खबर दूरदर्शन पर चली है तो ये बिल्कुल सत्य खबर है, ये बिल्कुल, इससे कोई आपको इधर उधर संकोच करने की बात नहीं।
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव हम लोग 75 साल का मना रहे हैं और सारे कलाकार सुन लो, तैयार रहो। महाराज जी ने आदेश दिया है, गोरखपुर महोत्सव के साथ 1800 कलाकार आ रहे हैं। समस्त भारत से यहां नाट्य कुंभ होगा, कलाकारों को जीवित किया जाएगा एक नए रोजगार के लिए। आज भी ये दूरदर्शन और आकाशवाणी का ये जो विस्तारीकरण हुआ है, कितनों को रोजगार मिलेगा।
Around 25 crore rupees was sanctioned for the project. All the 3 FM relay stations of Bahraich, Etawah and Lakhimpur Kheri are of 10 kilowatt capacity. Union INB Minister Anurag Singh Thakur lauded the UP government led by Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath.
योगी जी की सरकार आने के बाद अगर यहां से पलायन किसी का हुआ है तो गुंडा राज का हुआ है मेरे भाई और बहनों। और जिनका गुंडा राज के समय जब आम जनता का पलायन होता तो उनको वापस आने का मौका मिला है। और केवल वो वापस नहीं आए, इसके साथ साथ उत्तर प्रदेश में निवेश वापस आना शुरू हुआ है। जो 17वें नंबर पर उत्तर प्रदेश था ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस में, आज देश में दूसरे नंबर पर आकर खड़ा हो गया है मेरे भाई और बहन।
The opening of the Earth station will give a boost to the spread of local folk art and language in the region and will also provide a platform to around 5 crore local people and also provide news and information to the people. Referring to Principal Director General of All India Radio, DG of Doordarshan, Mayank Agarwal, said that now listeners of these districts can enjoy their favorite programs on the FM.
इस अर्थ स्टेशन के चालू होने से सर, सर्वप्रथम मैं कहना चाहूंगा कि मेरे दूरदर्शन के जो अधिकारी और कर्मचारी हैं, उनके चेहरों पर सर एक प्रफुल्लता आ गई है सर, और अब वे तत्पर हैं पूरे जोश और उत्साह के साथ इस क्षेत्र की कला संस्कृति पर नए कार्यक्रम पूरे देश तक पहुंचाने के लिए।
टेक्नोलॉजी में बदलाव आने से कारण ट्रांजिस्टर रेडियो कम दिख रहा है, मगर मोबाइल फोन हर व्यक्ति के पास है और जो लोग कार में सफ़र करते हैं और साथ मोबाइल लेकर चलते हैं, इन सब लोगों तक आकाशवाणी के कार्यक्रम सुनने के लिए FM स्टेशंस की जरूरी है।
The Indo-Nepal border from Gadania and Nanpara Center and Indians living in Nepal will also be able to enjoy the entertaining program of Vivid Bharati of the All India Radio. Ramendra Singh's report, DD India.
In our national roundup segment.
MOS and PMO Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, Dr. Jitendra Singh on Friday introduced in the Lok Sabha 2 legislative bills amending the tenure clause of Director CBI and Director Enforcement Directorate by introducing a provision in the concerned sections of the 2 acts, namely the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act 1946 and the Central Vigilance Commission Act 2003. Union Health Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandviya has refuted allegations that there were several losses of lives due to shortage of oxygen during the second wave of COVID-19 in the country. During the question hour in Lok Sabha on Friday, the Health Minister explained that during the second wave of the pandemic, there has been huge capacity addition in oxygen production. Congress leader Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary tried to raise the issue of suspended members in Lok Sabha, which was rejected by the Speaker. BJP Rajya Sabha MPs protested against the protesting opposition over the suspension of 12 Rajya Sabha MPs for the winter parliament near the Mahatma Gandhi statue. The Rajya Sabha conducted normal business without any adjournment. Union Minister and Leader of the House Piyush Goyal said that the suspended members have not apologized for their unruly behavior and instead they are justifying their conduct. President Ram Nath Kovind conferred the National Awards for Outstanding Work towards Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities in New Delhi on International Day of Persons with Disabilities. The awards were given to individuals, institutions, organizations, state and district for their outstanding achievements and work towards the empowerment of persons with disabilities. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Dehradun in Uttarakhand on Saturday. Prime Minister will inaugurate and lay the foundation stone of multiple projects worth around 18,000 crores in Dehradun. He will also address a public meeting at Parade Ground in Dehradun. The Prime Minister will lay the foundation stone of 11 development projects. They include the Delhi-Dehradun Economic Corridor.
And with that, it's a wrap. But news continues here on DD India. You can catch all the latest updates on our social media, mobile and digital platforms. Wish you all a very happy weekend. Thanks for watching. Bye.